Hello everyone and welcome to the Distinct Mastering YouTube channel. My name is Freddie. Today we're going to be doing a new thing for 2025 and I'm going to be challenging myself to clean up my Ableton plugin list. If you are running into the same problem where you have lots of the same plugins because of the different various plugin formats and you've installed a lot of plugins over the years, this video might be for you. Now before we get into the video, I just want to mention that I have my new 2025 memberships announced and you can be a member on YouTube or you can be a member on Patreon. There's additional benefits to being a member in the bigger Patreon package, so make sure you head on to the Patreon, links down below, and check that out. As well, you could just support the channel if you want to be on YouTube. If you like the music that's playing in the background, it is from my new EP, my alias Freshcobar, out on NOS Recordings, the Gemini 2 EP. Links to that are down below as well. Thanks for all your support. I'd love for you to check out the music and let me know what you think in the comments. Now let's get into cleaning out my Ableton plugins. Okay, a little backstory before we begin to give you guys the reasonings behind all of this. One, I always used AU plugins with Ableton. I thought a long time ago that being on a Mac, AU would be better since they're the Mac component. Over the years, I've had now 2 plugin developers tell me that I should move to VST3. One of them was Steve Dutta from X for Records, so you know Serum and all of those plugins that I love. And another was recently Arturia. I had a recent issue with Arturia plugins where they just stopped loading and I had to clean out all their plugins and redo it. I also am having an issue with Soundtoys, specifically VST3 plugins, and have been in communication with their support. But I actually found a fix today that I'm going to also mention in this video. So that being said, I obviously use Ableton collections and I have an old video on how I've sorted out my Ableton collections. I'll leave you a link to that down below. But I want to take a different approach. As I've been tagging all my sounds in the new Ableton Live 12 browser, I found how convenient and fast it is. And I thought to do the similar thing with my plugins. Obviously, I turn on all of the plugins. I don't know why, some show up in AU and VST and some didn't show up in VST3. So I wanted to get to the bottom of this and figure out why this is happening. And I've been exploring in the last week and a half and found some things that will be helpful for you. So the first thing that I decided to do was make a full list of all the plugins on my system in Ableton. Now, if you understand how Ableton works, you have the options in the preferences panel of turning things on and off. But having it kind of in a bird's eye view like this was very helpful. Now I need to go through, because I just did fix the Soundtoys problem that I'm going to talk about. And so I need to go through and verify the VST3 list. This way I can kind of see what's missing from the VST3 and then potentially eventually maybe move the unused plugins out of the AU and VST2, so I could leave AU and VST2 if I need to on. This is probably going to be a phase 2 of this whole project. Now, just to show you what I mean, Ableton, obviously, if you have all the formats listed, you could see AU2, VST2, VST3, and there's just a lot of duplicates in there. But if you notice, as I switched between these VST2 and VST3, some of these didn't show up. And so that's an interesting thing, because what I was told, to go to VST3, it's more stable, it's more up to date, cross compatibility if I ever needed to open my sessions on a PC. And you never know, I guess. I used to say things that I would never do, and things have changed 10 years later. That being said, for 2025, I'm challenging myself, and I'll also challenge all of you to try to clean up your plugin list and potentially move into a VST3 format. Now, some of the bigger problems that I've understood to know are dealing with the Waves plugins, which I have some videos on how I have had some issues with Waves. I'll leave you links to those down below. And then there's obviously the Universal Audio stuff that just displays a list of all of your plugins. And one workaround that I have found to combat that I've done all these years is to have this UAD collection here, which is all the UAD plugins that I personally own. And so while that's been useful to have, it's still, I'm looking at a giant list of plugins in my plugin library. And I think it is time to clean some things up. So the first step for me is going to finish off this list that I made, and then I'm going to revise my template so that all of the plugins in my template now load VST3 versions. The next thing I can do then is uncheck these boxes to eliminate the ones that I don't want to use anymore. However, if I do have some plugins that I still want to use that don't exist in VST3, I'm going to have to figure out what those are, hence why I made that big list, and then determine how to clean out the audio units and VST2 plugins, which is going to be in phase 2 of this large project. So if you want to follow me along on this journey, I'm going to get started right now, and I'm going to come back to you in this video, give you some updates on how things are progressing. And the good thing about this method is if I do need to open up older sessions, all I'll need to do is turn these back on. But I need to get myself to a point where I've finished off a lot of the projects that are using the old audio units and VST2 plugins, in case I do want to move plugins to, say, an unused folder or uninstall things to just completely clean them out the list. That method won't work. So I'm actually in the process of completing all the projects that are open right now and going to kind of keep going with a fresh start. The other option is to convert those projects from the plugins that are in them and move them into VST3, or just flatten everything to audio. So lots of kind of ways to go about this. And I think the number one thing for me is to kind of set a hard deadline date, stop working on music. Unfortunately, I started another track this week. I'm always working on music, so that's not going to be super easy to do, but follow me along my journey. I'm going to keep you up to date on this one. And so without further ado, I'm going to get into revising this template and get back to you on this video with some updates. So stay tuned. Okay, so I just went through the template. I converted everything to VST3. What I also then did was I made a VST3 version of my template and kept my old one. I also went through at this time and saved a few presets that of stuff in my template of some of the plugins, so it was an easy load when I loaded up the VST3 version. Some of the plugins, like the Wave stuff, if you've heard about my previous problem with the VST2 Waves plugins, I had to move to VST3 quite some time ago, so those were already updated in the template. Now, what I should be able to do is just go to my settings and turn these off, and I should be able to load up this template, and it should load up perfectly fine. So this is a way of me now starting to use VST3 on all new projects. Well, looks like we didn't catch everything. So, and then yes, the one thing that I did find that doesn't have a VST3 version was my Moog Subsequent 37 editor. So I just need to go through and replace this Simplon, and then I'll be all set. So stay tuned. Okay, we just saved the template, the moment of truth. Now we do know that the Moog plugin only exists on my computer as VST2, which is interesting. So I got to dig into that. And yes, so we're clear. All of the plugins except this one, the CV editor, have been updated. My template opens, minus this one. And I should be good to move forward on new projects this way. And I want to mention how I got the missing VST3 plugins to show up. I tried lots of different things, but today what I ended up doing was I turned on the VST3 custom folder, and then I just browsed for the system folder where the VST3s are, and all of a sudden it loaded them all up, and I no longer had any issues, not only for Soundtoys plugins, but for a couple others that weren't looking in that folder. So try that if you're having the same problem. Okay, I just want to talk about what I'm considering doing in phase 2 of this project, and I'd love to know in the comments if you guys have done any of this. I've seen some videos on YouTube already, and I've seen some, you know, plugin manager type plugins like this Owl plugin, but that didn't work for me. I am surprised that Ableton doesn't have a plugin manager. I know Logic does. And then on the other hand, Pro Tools is super clean with their plugins because they use the AAX format, and they have an unused folder that I could move things into to clean up this plugin list. Now, Ableton doesn't have anything like that, so I'm considering creating an unused folder in my plugins folder, which is deep in the computer in the library folder. But this is going to be a later project because I need to close out some existing sessions and I need to plan ahead. Some of the other things that I'm considering doing are cleaning out the UAD plugins and just getting rid of all of the ones that I don't own, but just moving them to a location where I could easily move them back. So I'm going to develop another system. I got to go through and check the VSTs, make sure my list is up to date. And then the biggest thing I was noticing was the Wave stuff. You know, Waves is completely different with the way they install their plugins. If you look in the plugin folder, you just have the Wave shell. And so where the Waves plugins actually exist is in your applications folder. And as you see here, if I go into Waves, they're all here. So I'm considering maybe just putting like a .old or moving these into an unused folder and seeing how this all works out. So I'm going to do a backup, a time machine backup in case I have any issues. I can't have downtime, and I will keep you up to date. Like I said, please let me know in the comments if you've done any of this before. I'd love to hear your stories, and let's get into the plugin challenge for 2025 and simplify our lives. Okay, I hope that you guys found this useful. If you want to join my plugin journey, stay tuned on part 2 of this as I work on this the next few weeks. I don't know when that video will be coming out, but in the meantime, I encourage you to check out the new membership section for 2025. I have a YouTube supporter membership, and I have a Patreon where you can do the supporter, or you could be the creator package and you get a lot more bonus content that I'll be giving you, presets, samples that I make, various things, maybe some Ableton templates, whatever. What do you guys want to see? Let me know down in the comments. And if you like the music that's playing in the background, once again, it's a new EP of mine, the Gemini 2 EP out on NOS Recordings. Make sure to check that out. The links are down below. If you found this video helpful, please do consider subscribing to my channel if you're new here. The bell notification will keep you up to date on future videos, and that like button will let the YouTube algorithm know that you enjoyed this. Comments are always welcome. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much. I hope you're having a good new year, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.